Sarah Martinez never imagined that her steady hands, which once helped her grandmother thread needles, would one day hold a rifle that could change the course of military operations. Growing up in a small Texas town, she was known as the quiet girl who could hit any target at the county fair. Her father, a Vietnam veteran, had taught her to shoot when she was 12, not because he wanted her to become a soldier, but because he believed every person should know how to protect themselves. The dusty roads of Millerville held memories of Sarah practicing with her father's old hunting rifle behind their modest house. She would spend hours aiming at tin cans lined up on the wooden fence, each shot more precise than the last. Her younger brother Jake would watch in amazement as she consistently hit targets that even experienced hunters in their town struggled with. But Sarah never boasted about her skill. She simply enjoyed the focus and calm that shooting brought her. When Sarah turned 18, her family faced financial troubles. Her father's small auto repair shop was struggling to compete with the larger chains moving into town. Medical bills from her mother's cancer treatment had piled up, and college seemed like an impossible dream. One evening, as she sat on the front porch watching the sunset, a military recruiter's advertisement on the radio caught her attention. The promise of education benefits, stable income, and the chance to serve her country planted a seed in her mind. Her parents were initially hesitant when she mentioned joining the military. Her mother worried about the dangers, especially for a young woman in what was still largely a male-dominated field. Her father understood her desire to serve, but feared she might face discrimination and hardship. However, Sarah's determination was unwavering. She had researched the opportunities available and learned about the changing roles for women in the armed forces. The day Sarah walked into the recruitment office, she met Sergeant Rodriguez, a seasoned recruiter who had seen many young people with dreams of military service. He was impressed by her composure and her clear answers to his questions. When he learned about her shooting abilities, his interest piqued. He explained various military occupational specialties available to her, but Sarah found herself drawn to roles that would utilize her marksmanship skills. During her initial screening and testing, Sarah's exceptional performance caught the attention of several instructors. Her scores on the physical fitness tests were solid, but it was her performance at the rifle range that made jaws drop. Out of 50 rounds fired at various distances, Sarah missed the bullseye only twice, and even those shots were within the inner rings. The range instructor, a gruff man who had trained thousands of recruits, quietly made a note in her file. Basic training at Fort Moore proved challenging for Sarah, but not in the way she had expected. The physical demands were tough but manageable with her farm girl strength and determination. The real challenge was proving herself to her male counterparts, who often questioned whether women belonged in combat roles. Some drill sergeants pushed her harder than others, testing her resolve and mental toughness. During one particularly difficult training exercise, Sarah's unit was practicing urban combat scenarios. The exercise involved navigating through a mock town while engaging targets at various ranges. Sarah was assigned as the designated marksman for her squad, a role that required her to provide overwatch and eliminate distant threats. As her squad moved through the streets, enemy targets appeared at windows and rooftops. Sarah's calm voice over the radio, calling out targets and engaging them with precision, earned her the respect of her teammates. Her squad leader, Corporal Williams, initially harbored doubts about having a woman in such a critical role, but watching Sarah methodically eliminate threats while keeping his team safe changed his perspective. After the exercise, he approached her with a grudging respect. He told her that her shooting had prevented his squad from taking simulated casualties, something that previous designated marksmen had failed to do as effectively. Word of Sarah's exceptional abilities began to spread beyond her immediate unit. During advanced marksmanship training, she consistently outperformed not just her peers, but also seasoned soldiers with years of experience. Her instructors began discussing her potential for specialized training programs. The military was beginning to recognize that exceptional talent could come in any form, regardless of gender. One evening, as Sarah cleaned her rifle in the barracks, she overheard some soldiers discussing elite units in special operations forces. They spoke of snipers who operated behind enemy lines, of missions that required the highest level of skill and dedication. Sarah listened quietly, her mind racing with possibilities. She had never considered that her small-town shooting skills could lead to such specialized roles. the opportunity came sooner than expected. During a live-fire exercise designed to simulate real combat conditions, Sarah was tasked with providing overwatch for a reconnaissance mission. Hidden in a camouflaged position 800 meters from the target area, she had to protect her teammates as they gathered intelligence from a mock enemy compound. Through her scope, she could see everything unfolding below. When opposing forces attempted to flank her team's position, Sarah's precise shots neutralized the threats before they could engage her squadmates. Her ability to read wind conditions, calculate distances, and make adjustments on the fly impressed even the most experienced instructors. After the exercise, Captain Henderson, who had been observing the training, pulled Sarah aside for a private conversation. Captain Henderson explained that there were opportunities for soldiers with exceptional marksmanship skills to pursue advanced training. He mentioned specialized schools and programs that could develop her abilities further. But he also warned her that the path would be more difficult for a woman, that she would face challenges and scrutiny that her male counterparts might not experience. Sarah looked Captain Henderson in the eye and told him she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. She had come too far and worked too hard to let obstacles deter her. Her small-town upbringing had taught her that worth was measured by actions, not by what others expected based on appearances. That conversation would prove to be the turning point that set her on a path toward becoming one of the military's most skilled and respected snipers. As she walked back to the barracks that night, Sarah thought about her family back in Texas and the dreams that had brought her this far. She knew that the journey ahead would test every aspect of her character and abilities, but she was ready to prove that excellence knows no gender. The selection process for sniper school was unlike anything Sarah had experienced in her military career so far. She found herself among 32 candidates, and she was the only woman. The other candidates ranged from seasoned infantry soldiers to Marines with multiple deployments. Some had already served in combat zones and carried themselves with the confidence that comes from real-world experience. Master Sergeant Coleman, the lead instructor for the program, made it clear from the first day that gender would not be a factor in his evaluation. His weathered face and steely eyes had seen decades of military service, and he had trained some of the finest snipers in the armed forces. He told the class that sniper training had one of the highest attrition rates in the military, and that by the end of the course, fewer than half of them would graduate. The physical demands began immediately. Candidates had to demonstrate they could carry heavy equipment across long distances, remain motionless for hours in uncomfortable positions, and maintain their shooting accuracy even when exhausted. Sarah's farm background served her well during these challenges. Years of helping her father with heavy machinery and working long hours in the Texas heat had built both her physical strength and mental endurance. But the real test came during the stalking exercises. Students had to move undetected across open terrain, while instructors with binoculars tried to spot them. The goal was to reach designated firing positions without being seen, then take a shot that would be both accurate and undetectable. Sarah learned to move inches at a time using natural terrain features to mask her movement. She studied how light and shadow played across the landscape, how to use vegetation as concealment, and how to control even her breathing to avoid detection. During one particularly challenging stalk, Sarah spent 6 hours moving less than 400 meters across a field dotted with small bushes and rocky outcroppings. The instructors were positioned on a hill with high-powered optics, scanning constantly for any sign of the students. Sarah had painted her face with camouflage paint and attached natural vegetation to her ghillie suit. Every movement was calculated and deliberate. Halfway through the exercise, she found herself pinned down in a shallow depression with no cover. An instructor was scanning the area methodically with binoculars, and Sarah knew that any movement would result in her being spotted and eliminated from the exercise. She remained perfectly still for 2 hours, ignoring the ants crawling over her hands and the cramp developing in her left leg. Her father's lessons about patience during hunting trips proved invaluable. When the instructor finally moved his attention to another sector, Sarah continued her approach. She reached her designated firing position just as the sun began to set, giving her the lighting conditions she needed for the shot. Through her scope, she could see the target clearly. The shot had to be perfect, not just accurate, but taken without revealing her position to the observing instructors. Sarah controlled her breathing, felt her heartbeat steady, and squeezed the trigger gently. The bullet found its mark precisely in the center of the target. More importantly, the instructors scanning the area with their optics could not determine where the shot had come from. Sarah had successfully completed one of the most challenging exercises in the program. Her classmates began to take notice of her consistent performance. Initially, some had viewed her presence with skepticism, wondering if standards had been lowered to accommodate her. But as exercise after exercise demonstrated her competence, that skepticism transformed into respect. Private Johnson, a Marine with 2 combat tours, began asking her for advice on breathing techniques and shot placement. The academic portion of the training proved equally challenging. Students learned about ballistics, weather effects on long-range shooting, radio procedures, and intelligence gathering. Sarah excelled in these areas, her attention to detail and methodical approach serving her well. She studied late into the night, memorizing range cards and wind formulas, understanding that knowledge could mean the difference between mission success and failure. One of the most difficult aspects of the training involved learning to work with a spotter. Sniper teams operate as pairs, with one person taking the shot while the other provides security, intelligence, and shooting calculations. Sarah was paired with Sergeant Davis, an experienced soldier who initially struggled with the idea of having a female partner. Their first exercises together were marked by miscommunication and tension. The breakthrough came during a complex training scenario that simulated a hostage rescue situation. Sarah and Sergeant Davis were positioned 800 meters from a building, where instructors had set up targets representing hostages and terrorists. The scenario required them to gather intelligence, identify specific targets, and coordinate with an assault team. Communication between the sniper team and ground forces was critical. As they observed the building through their scopes, Sergeant Davis provided wind readings and distance calculations, while Sarah tracked the movement of targets through windows. The scenario became complicated when weather conditions changed, affecting both visibility and bullet trajectory. Sarah had to make rapid calculations and adjustments while maintaining constant communication with the assault team. When the signal came to engage, Sarah had less than 5 seconds to eliminate 2 specific targets before the assault team breached the building. Her first shot dropped the target in the left window, and she immediately shifted to engage the second target on the roof. Both shots were precise, allowing the assault team to complete their mission successfully. After the exercise, Sergeant Davis approached Sarah with a new attitude. He admitted that her calm performance under pressure and her ability to make accurate shots while managing multiple variables had impressed him. He told her that he would be proud to serve alongside her in a real-world mission. Their partnership from that point forward became one of the strongest in the class. As the weeks progressed, the training became increasingly realistic and demanding. Students faced scenarios involving urban environments, desert conditions, and jungle warfare. They learned to construct hides using local materials, to remain concealed for days at a time, and to gather intelligence while maintaining their primary mission of providing precision fire support. Sarah's performance remained consistently high across all environments and conditions. Her instructors noted not only her shooting accuracy, but also her tactical intelligence and her ability to remain calm under stress. Master Sergeant Coleman, who had initially wondered whether a woman could handle the physical and mental demands of the program, found himself impressed by her dedication and competence. The final exercise of the training program was a comprehensive field problem that lasted 72 hours. Students were inserted into a remote training area and given a series of missions that tested every skill they had learned. Sarah and Sergeant Davis were tasked with gathering intelligence on enemy positions, eliminating specific high-value targets, and providing overwatch for friendly forces conducting operations in the area. The exercise culminated with Sarah achieving something that few students in the program's history had accomplished. She completed every assigned mission successfully while remaining undetected by opposing forces throughout the entire exercise. Her final shot, taken at a distance of over 1,000 meters in challenging wind conditions, hit the target dead center and secured the successful completion of her team's mission. Graduation day from sniper school arrived with mixed emotions for Sarah. Of the 32 candidates who had started the program, only 14 remained. She had not only survived but graduated at the top of her class, earning recognition for exceptional marksmanship and tactical proficiency. Master Sergeant Coleman presented her with the coveted sniper badge, telling her quietly that she had earned her place among the military's elite marksmen through skill and determination alone. Sarah's first assignment took her to Fort Liberty, where she joined a specialized unit, preparing for deployment to Afghanistan. The war was entering a critical phase, with coalition forces conducting complex operations against insurgent networks in mountainous terrain that favored skilled marksmen. Her new unit commander, Major Thompson, had specifically requested her assignment based on her training record and the recommendations from her instructors. The integration into her new unit presented fresh challenges. While her shooting skills were undisputed, she had to prove herself operationally to soldiers who had already served multiple combat tours together. Staff Sergeant Murphy, the senior sniper in the unit, had initial reservations about working with someone so new to operational deployment, regardless of her training achievements. Her spotter assignment came as a surprise. Instead of being paired with Sergeant Davis, who had been assigned to a different unit, Sarah was teamed with Corporal Jake Harrison, a veteran of 3 previous deployments with an outstanding record. Harrison was known for his exceptional ability to read environmental conditions and provide accurate firing solutions under pressure. He was also known for his direct communication style and high standards. Their first training exercises together at Fort Liberty were intensive. Harrison tested Sarah's abilities under various conditions, pushing her to demonstrate not just accuracy but consistency under stress. He simulated equipment failures, communication breakdowns, and time-critical scenarios that required immediate responses. Sarah approached each challenge methodically, drawing on her training while adapting to Harrison's working style. The breakthrough in their partnership came during a live-fire exercise conducted in difficult weather conditions. High winds and shifting light conditions made accurate shooting extremely challenging. Many of the other sniper teams struggled to hit their targets consistently. Sarah and Harrison worked together to read the environmental factors, with Harrison providing precise corrections and Sarah making the necessary adjustments. Their performance was flawless. Sarah hit 19 out of 20 targets at ranges extending beyond 800 meters, with the single miss being within inches of the target center. Harrison's spot-on reading of conditions and clear communication had enabled Sarah to perform at her peak level. After the exercise, Harrison told her privately that he looked forward to deploying with her as his shooter. Pre-deployment training intensified as their departure date approached. The unit conducted realistic exercises that simulated the conditions they would face in Afghanistan. Sarah learned about the terrain, climate, and tactical situation they would encounter. She studied intelligence reports about enemy sniper activities and the countermeasures they would need to employ to operate effectively. The cultural briefings proved particularly important for Sarah. As one of the few women who would be operating in forward positions, she needed to understand how her presence might affect interactions with local populations and allied forces. She learned phrases in local languages and studied the customs and traditions that could impact her mission effectiveness. Sarah's family gathered at the airport for her departure. Her parents had watched their daughter transform from a small-town girl into a professional soldier, and while they were proud of her achievements, they worried about the dangers she would face. Her father pulled her aside before she boarded the plane, telling her to trust her training and remember that her skills would not only help her survive, but also protect her fellow soldiers. The flight to Afghanistan was long, giving Sarah time to reflect on the journey that had brought her to this point. She thought about the challenges she had overcome and the people who had supported her along the way. But mostly, she focused on the mission ahead and her responsibility to perform at the highest level when lives depended on her skills. Bagram Airfield was bustling with activity when Sarah's unit arrived. The scale of the military operation was impressive, with aircraft constantly landing and taking off, convoys preparing for missions, and personnel from various nations working together. Sarah felt the weight of being in a combat zone for the first time, knowing that this was where her training would be put to the ultimate test. Her unit was assigned to Forward Operating Base Chapman, located in a strategically important valley that served as a key transit route for insurgent forces. The base was surrounded by mountains that provided excellent vantage points for sniper operations but also created significant security challenges. Sarah quickly learned that the enemy also employed skilled marksmen who took advantage of the terrain. The first few weeks involved acclimatization and reconnaissance missions designed to familiarize the newly arrived soldiers with the operational environment. Sarah and Harrison conducted observation missions from various elevated positions around the base, mapping potential firing positions and escape routes while gathering intelligence on enemy movement patterns. During one of these reconnaissance missions, Sarah had her first encounter with enemy sniper activity. While observing a suspected infiltration route through her scope, she noticed a glint of reflected light from a ridge line approximately 1,200 meters away. Her training immediately kicked in as she recognized the signature of someone using optical equipment to observe their position. Harrison confirmed her observation and immediately began calculating firing solutions while Sarah maintained visual contact with the suspected enemy position. The situation was tense because they could not be certain whether they were observing an enemy sniper or simply a local civilian with binoculars. The rules of engagement required positive identification before they could engage. For 20 minutes, Sarah maintained surveillance on the position, while Harrison coordinated with command elements to gather additional intelligence. During this time, Sarah noticed subtle movements and behaviors that indicated this was likely a trained military observer, rather than a civilian. When a second figure appeared at the position carrying what appeared to be a rifle, the identification became clear. Sarah received authorization to engage just as the enemy sniper was setting up to take a shot at coalition forces moving through the valley below. The range was at the outer limits of effective engagement, and environmental conditions, including wind and heat mirage, made the shot extremely challenging. Harrison provided precise corrections based on his reading of the conditions. Sarah controlled her breathing, made the necessary adjustments to her scope, and took the shot. Through her optics, she saw the enemy sniper collapse, eliminating the immediate threat to the coalition forces below. It was her first confirmed kill in combat, marking a significant moment in her military career. The successful engagement brought Sarah to the attention of higher command levels. Her ability to identify, track, and eliminate an enemy sniper at extended range under challenging conditions demonstrated the value of her training and natural abilities. Word of the engagement spread through the base, earning her respect from soldiers who had previously been uncertain about her capabilities. Major Thompson called Sarah and Harrison to his office following the mission. He commended their performance and informed them that they would be assigned to increasingly critical missions based on their demonstrated competence. Sarah knew that her real test as a combat sniper was just beginning, and she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. 2 months into her deployment, Sarah had established herself as one of the most effective snipers on the base. Her confirmed kills numbered 8, and her reconnaissance work had provided valuable intelligence that prevented several attacks on coalition forces. However, her growing reputation also made her a target. Enemy forces had begun actively hunting for the sniper who had been disrupting their operations with such devastating effectiveness. The mission that would define Sarah's reputation came on a cold morning in October. Intelligence reports indicated that a high-value target, a Taliban commander responsible for coordinating attacks across the region, would be meeting with local cell leaders in a village approximately 15 kilometers from the base. The meeting was scheduled to take place in a compound that offered limited approach routes but provided excellent cover for enemy forces. Major Thompson briefed Sarah and Harrison on the mission during a pre-dawn meeting. The objective was to eliminate the Taliban commander while he was exposed, but the mission came with significant complications. The compound was located in a populated area, where civilian casualties had to be avoided at all costs. Additionally, intelligence suggested that the enemy had positioned security teams with anti-sniper capabilities throughout the surrounding area. Sarah studied the aerial, photographs, and satellite imagery of the target area carefully. The compound was situated in a valley surrounded by hills that offered multiple potential firing positions. However, most of these positions were obvious and likely under enemy surveillance. The ideal shot would have to come from a location that provided both the necessary angle and adequate concealment for extraction. After the mission, Harrison identified a position on a ridge approximately 850 meters from the target compound. The location offered a clear line of sight to the courtyard where the meeting was expected to take place, but reaching it would require a difficult infiltration through enemy-controlled territory. The extraction would be even more challenging, as enemy forces would certainly respond aggressively once the shot was taken. The insertion began at midnight, with Sarah and Harrison moving through mountainous terrain, using night vision equipment to navigate without artificial light. They carried minimal equipment to maintain mobility, but Sarah's rifle and ammunition alone weighed over 20 pounds. The route took them through rocky terrain that threatened to reveal their position with every step. They reached their firing position just as dawn was breaking, giving them time to construct a concealed hide using local vegetation and camouflage materials. Sarah settled into position behind her rifle, while Harrison set up his spotting scope and communication equipment. They would have to wait for potentially hours before the target appeared. Maintaining absolute silence and remaining motionless despite uncomfortable positions, the waiting proved to be one of the most challenging aspects of the mission. Sarah lay prone behind her rifle for over 4 hours, tracking movement around the compound through her scope while Harrison monitored radio communications and provided updates on weather conditions. The temperature rose steadily as the sun climbed higher, making their concealed position increasingly uncomfortable. At approximately 11:30 in the morning, vehicles began arriving at the compound. Harrison confirmed through his scope that one of the passengers matched the description of their target. Sarah tracked the figure as he moved from the vehicle to the compound entrance, but she did not have a clear shot due to the presence of other individuals who appeared to be civilians. The target disappeared into the compound, leaving Sarah and Harrison to wait for him to reappear in the courtyard, where intelligence reports suggested the meeting would take place. Sarah maintained her position behind the rifle, making minor adjustments to account for changing wind conditions and the increasing heat that created mirage effects in her scope. 30 minutes later, the target emerged into the courtyard accompanied by 3 other men. Sarah could see him clearly through her scope, but she had to wait for the right moment when civilian risk would be minimized. The men moved around the courtyard, discussing what appeared to be maps and documents spread on a table in the center of the space. Harrison provided wind and distance corrections while monitoring for threats to their position. Enemy security teams were moving through the surrounding hills, and it was only a matter of time before their hide might be discovered. The pressure to take the shot was increasing, but Sarah remained patient, waiting for the optimal opportunity. The moment came when the target separated from the group to take a phone call, positioning himself near a wall that would minimize the risk of casualties to others in the area. Sarah adjusted her aim point, controlled her breathing, and prepared to take the shot. The range was challenging but well within her capabilities under the current conditions. Harrison confirmed the target identification and gave Sarah the final clearance to engage. She squeezed the trigger smoothly, feeling the rifle's recoil as the bullet began its journey toward the target. Through her scope, she watched the bullet impact precisely where she had aimed, eliminating the high-value target cleanly and immediately. The compound erupted in activity as the target's associates realized what had happened. Harrison was already packing their equipment for immediate extraction, while Sarah took one final look through her scope to confirm the successful engagement. They had achieved their primary objective, but now they faced the dangerous task of escaping before enemy forces could locate their position. Their extraction route took them along a different path to avoid areas where enemy forces might expect them to withdraw. Sarah and Harrison moved quickly but carefully, knowing that speed was essential but that a single mistake could compromise their escape. They could hear vehicles and helicopters beginning to search the area, making stealth increasingly difficult. The most dangerous moment came when they had to cross an exposed ridgeline that offered no concealment from observation. Enemy forces were actively searching the hills with both ground teams and aerial support. Sarah and Harrison had to time their crossing perfectly, moving during moments when search aircraft were focused on other areas. They successfully reached their extraction point, where a helicopter waited to return them to base. As they lifted off, Sarah could see the extensive search operation that had been launched to find them. Multiple vehicles and aircraft were scouring the area they had just escaped, demonstrating both the importance of their target and the effectiveness of their mission. Back at the base, Major Thompson debriefed Sarah and Harrison on their successful mission. The elimination of the Taliban commander would significantly disrupt enemy operations in the region, and the clean execution of the mission had avoided civilian casualties while demonstrating the precision capabilities of coalition forces. Sarah's successful completion of this high-risk mission earned her recognition at higher command levels. Reports of her performance reached beyond the local base, drawing attention from special operations commanders who were always seeking skilled personnel for the most challenging missions. She had proven herself not only as an accurate shooter, but as a complete military professional, capable of operating effectively under extreme pressure. However, Sarah remained focused on her immediate responsibilities, rather than dwelling on recognition or future opportunities. She knew that her next mission could be even more challenging, and she dedicated herself to maintaining her skills and preparing for whatever tasks her commanders might assign her. Her reputation as an elite sniper was growing, but she understood that reputation meant nothing without continued excellence in performance. Word of Sarah's exceptional performance had reached the Special Operations Command, where planners were developing a high-risk mission that required the most skilled marksmen available. The mission involved infiltrating deep into enemy territory to eliminate a network of bomb makers who had been responsible for increasingly sophisticated improvised explosive devices that were causing heavy casualties among coalition forces. Colonel James Mitchell, commander of a Joint Special Operations Task Force, personally requested Sarah's assignment to his unit for this critical operation. Her record showed not only exceptional marksmanship, but also the tactical intelligence and composure necessary for operations behind enemy lines. The mission would require her to work alongside Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, and other elite units in what would be one of the most challenging assignments of the war. Sarah's transfer to the Special Operations Compound came with mixed feelings. She was proud to be selected for such an important mission, but she was sorry to leave Harrison, who had become not just an effective partner, but a trusted friend. Their successful missions together had created a bond that went beyond professional cooperation, and both soldiers knew they worked exceptionally well as a team. Her new assignment paired her with Petty Officer First Class Marcus Webb, a Navy SEAL with extensive experience in reconnaissance and direct action missions. Webb had initially questioned the decision to assign a regular Army soldier to his team, regardless of her reputation. Special operations units typically worked only with personnel who had completed their specialized training programs and earned their place through proven performance in elite units. The first meeting between Sarah and Webb was tense. He made it clear that he expected her to prove herself all over again, despite her record of successful missions. The other members of the team watched carefully as the two professionals sized each other up. Sarah understood that she was being evaluated not just as a sniper, but as someone who could function effectively within the tight-knit brotherhood of Special Operations Forces. Their first training exercise together involved a complex scenario that required coordination between multiple elements. Sarah's role was to provide precision fire support, while Webb's team conducted a direct assault on a fortified position. The exercise tested not only her shooting skills, but her ability to communicate effectively and make split-second decisions that would affect the entire team's success. During the exercise, unexpected complications arose that required the team to adapt their plan rapidly. Enemy forces appeared in positions that had not been anticipated, and Sarah had to engage multiple targets while coordinating with the assault team to prevent fratricide. Her calm performance under pressure and her ability to provide accurate fire support while managing complex communications impressed even Webb. After the exercise, Webb approached Sarah with a new attitude. He told her that while he still had reservations about working with someone from outside the special operations community, her performance had demonstrated that she could handle the demands of their missions. He made it clear that earning his complete trust would require successful performance in actual combat, but he was willing to give her that opportunity. The mission briefing revealed the complexity of their assignment. Intelligence had identified a compound deep in the mountains where bomb makers were producing advanced explosive devices under the protection of heavily armed guards. The facility was located in terrain that made conventional assault extremely difficult, requiring a precision approach that minimized the risk to both the assault team and potential intelligence assets within the compound. Sarah's role in the mission was critical. She would be positioned on a mountainside overlooking the compound, providing overwatch for the assault team while eliminating specific high-value targets. The shots would be technically challenging, with ranges extending beyond 1,000 meters in mountainous terrain, where wind conditions were unpredictable and constantly changing. The team spent 2 weeks preparing for the mission, conducting rehearsals and studying every aspect of the target and surrounding terrain. Sarah worked closely with Webb to develop contingency plans for various scenarios they might encounter. She studied the compound layout until she could identify every building and potential firing position from memory. The insertion took place during a moonless night, with the team traveling by helicopter to a landing zone several kilometers from the target. Sarah carried her rifle and over 100 rounds of ammunition, along with survival gear that would sustain her for several days if extraction became impossible. The weight of her equipment was significant, but her physical conditioning allowed her to keep pace with the special operations personnel. The approach to the target took nearly 6 hours, with the team moving through difficult mountain terrain while avoiding enemy patrols. Sarah's position was the most exposed, requiring her to cross open ground to reach a rocky outcropping that provided the necessary line of sight to the compound. Webb accompanied her partway before moving to his assault position. Sarah reached her firing position just before dawn, giving her time to construct a hide and prepare her equipment before daylight revealed her location to potential observers. The view of the compound through her scope confirmed the intelligence reports about the layout and security measures. Guards were visible at multiple positions and the buildings appeared to be reinforced against attack. Webb's team moved into position as planned, but early morning reconnaissance revealed additional enemy forces that had not been detected by intelligence sources. The assault would be more dangerous than anticipated, requiring Sarah to eliminate several sentries before the main attack could begin. Her shots would have to be perfect, as any alert would compromise the entire mission. The operation began with Sarah engaging guard positions on the compound perimeter. Her first shot eliminated a sentry at nearly 1,000 meters, followed immediately by a second shot that neutralized another guard, who had been positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire. The suppressed rifle kept her location concealed while eliminating the immediate threats to Webb's approaching team. As Webb's team breached the compound, Sarah shifted her focus to providing overwatch and eliminating any threats that appeared. Enemy fighters began responding to the assault, and several took positions that would have allowed them to engage the assault team with devastating effect. Sarah's precision fire prevented them from establishing effective positions while keeping her teammates safe. The most challenging shot of the mission came when an enemy fighter appeared at a window with a rocket-propelled grenade launcher aimed at Webb's team. The target was partially concealed, the range was over 800 meters, and Sarah had only seconds to make the shot before the enemy could fire. She adjusted for wind and elevation instinctively, relying on experience and training to guide her aim. Her bullet found its mark just as the enemy was preparing to fire, eliminating the threat and saving multiple lives among the assault team. Webb later told her that shot had been the difference between mission success and potential catastrophe. The elimination of the bomb makers and the intelligence gathered from the compound would significantly reduce the threat to coalition forces throughout the region. The extraction went smoothly, with Sarah maintaining overwatch until Webb's team had secured their objectives and prepared to withdraw. She remained in position until the helicopter arrived to extract the team, ensuring that no enemy forces could interfere with their departure. Her performance throughout the mission had exceeded even Webb's high expectations, earning his complete trust and respect. The successful mission with Webb's special operations team opened doors for Sarah that she had never imagined possible. Her performance had been documented and reported through channels that reached the highest levels of military command. She received orders to report to a classified facility, where she would be briefed on an assignment that came directly from Joint Special Operations Headquarters. The briefing took place in a secured room where Sarah met Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Hayes, one of the few women to reach senior levels in special operations. Colonel Hayes explained that Sarah had been selected for a mission that would utilize not only her sniper skills but also her ability to operate in environments where a woman's presence might provide tactical advantages that male operators could not achieve. The mission involved infiltrating a region where enemy forces had established a network of safe houses and training camps protected by local populations sympathetic to their cause. Traditional military operations in the area had been unsuccessful because enemy fighters could blend seamlessly with civilian populations, making identification and engagement extremely difficult without causing civilian casualties. Sarah's role would be to pose as a humanitarian worker while conducting reconnaissance and, when opportunities arose, eliminating high-priority targets. The cover story was carefully constructed to withstand scrutiny, involving a legitimate aid organization that had agreed to cooperate with the mission. Sarah would need to learn skills beyond military tactics, including basic medical procedures and aid distribution protocols that would make her cover believable. The preparation for this mission was unlike anything Sarah had experienced. She spent weeks learning to speak the local dialect with convincing fluency, studying cultural practices and religious customs that would be essential for her cover identity. She worked with female intelligence operatives who taught her how to modify her behavior and mannerisms to fit her assumed role as a medical aid worker. The most challenging aspect of the preparation was learning to conceal and transport her sniper rifle and equipment while maintaining her cover identity. Military engineers had developed specialized containers that appeared to be medical supply boxes, but actually contained her disassembled weapon and ammunition. She practiced assembling and disassembling her rifle until she could do it quickly and silently in complete darkness. Sarah's insertion into the target area required her to travel through several countries using forged documents that identified her as a medical volunteer. The journey took 3 days, with careful coordination to ensure she was never in contact with other military personnel who might compromise her cover. She traveled light, carrying only what a genuine aid worker would reasonably possess. Upon arrival in the target region, Sarah joined the aid organization's local office and began conducting legitimate medical work while gathering intelligence on enemy activities. Her medical training allowed her to provide real assistance to local populations, which helped establish her credibility within the community. She treated injuries, distributed medications, and participated in vaccination programs while carefully observing potential targets. The intelligence gathering phase lasted nearly a month, during which Sarah identified several enemy safe houses and documented the movement patterns of suspected militants. She used a specially modified medical device that contained a camera and GPS unit to record locations and photograph individuals without arousing suspicion. The information she gathered was transmitted through encrypted communications disguised as routine medical reports. Her first target was identified as a bomb maker who had been responsible for attacks that killed dozens of coalition soldiers and civilians. Intelligence indicated that he operated from a house in a densely populated neighborhood where conventional military operations would be impossible without significant collateral damage. Sarah's mission was to eliminate him while maintaining her cover and avoiding civilian casualties. The opportunity came when the target began suffering from a medical condition that required treatment. Sarah arranged to be the aid worker who would provide medical care at his residence, giving her access to the location while providing a plausible reason for her presence. She concealed a small-caliber weapon in her medical supplies, planning to eliminate the target during the medical consultation. However, when Sarah arrived at the residence, she discovered that the target was surrounded by family members, including several children. Her original plan would have risked civilian lives and potentially exposed her cover. She conducted a genuine medical examination while assessing alternative approaches to completing her mission without endangering innocents. Sarah spent several days developing a new plan that would allow her to engage the target when he was isolated from his family. She learned his daily routine through careful observation and identified a location where he met regularly with other militants. The meeting site was in an abandoned building that provided both concealment for her shooting position and isolation from civilian populations. The challenge was transporting and assembling her sniper rifle without being detected. Sarah used her medical supply runs to gradually move components of her weapon to a location near the target building. She concealed different parts in various medical containers during multiple trips, ensuring that no single discovery would reveal the complete weapon system. On the day of the planned operation, Sarah assembled her rifle in a concealed position overlooking the meeting site. The target appeared at the expected time, accompanied by 3 other militants who were also on the target list. Sarah had authorization to engage all 4 individuals, as they represented significant threats to both coalition forces and civilian populations. The shots were technically demanding, requiring precision at medium range in an urban environment. where the slightest miscalculation could result in bullets penetrating walls and endangering civilians in adjacent buildings. Sarah calculated the angles carefully, ensuring that her bullets would impact the targets without over-penetration that could cause collateral damage. Her first shot eliminated the primary target cleanly, followed by rapid engagement of the other 3 militants before they could take cover or return fire. All 4 targets were neutralized within 10 seconds, achieving the mission objectives while maintaining operational security. Sarah quickly disassembled her rifle and concealed the components before leaving the area. The aftermath of the operation required Sarah to maintain her cover, while enemy forces conducted an intensive search for the sniper responsible for eliminating their leadership. She continued her medical work normally, treating injuries and providing care to local populations while covertly observing the response to her mission. Her cover remained intact and she was never suspected of involvement in the operation. Colonel Hayes later debriefed Sarah on the mission, praising her adaptability and professional execution under extremely challenging conditions. The successful elimination of the bomb maker and his associates significantly disrupted enemy operations in the region and demonstrated the value of innovative approaches to counterterrorism operations. Sarah's performance in this unconventional role caught the attention of the highest levels of military and intelligence leadership. She had proven herself capable not only as a sniper, but as a complete intelligence operative who could function effectively in any environment. Her unique combination of skills made her invaluable for missions that required both precision marksmanship and sophisticated operational planning. Sarah's reputation had reached levels that attracted attention from the most senior military leadership in the region. Her successful missions and innovative approaches to complex problems had made her a valuable asset for operations that required the highest level of skill and discretion. However, her most significant encounter was yet to come, one that would demonstrate how excellence transcends traditional military hierarchies and expectations. The mission that would define this encounter began when intelligence sources identified a terrorist leader who had been orchestrating attacks across multiple provinces. This individual, known only by the codename The Engineer, had proven elusive for months, moving between safe houses and avoiding detection through sophisticated counter-surveillance techniques. Coalition forces had launched several unsuccessful operations to locate and eliminate this high-value target. The breakthrough came when intercepted communications revealed that the engineer would be attending a secret meeting with regional cell leaders in a remote mountain compound. The intelligence was considered highly reliable, but came with strict time constraints. The meeting was scheduled to take place in less than 48 hours, giving planners minimal time to organize an effective response. Major General Robert Harrison, the senior coalition commander for the region, personally took charge of planning the operation. The target's location was in extremely difficult terrain, surrounded by hostile forces and accessible only through heavily defended approaches. Conventional assault options were deemed too risky, with high probability of failure and significant casualties. During the planning session, Sarah's commanding officer recommended her for the mission, based on her proven ability to operate independently in challenging environments. Major General Harrison reviewed her service record and mission reports, finding himself impressed by the consistent excellence of her performance. However, he had never worked directly with a female sniper and was uncertain about assigning such a critical mission to someone he had never met personally. The meeting between Sarah and Major General Harrison took place in his office at the main headquarters compound. Sarah entered the room in full combat uniform, carrying herself with the quiet confidence that came from successful completion of dozens of dangerous missions. She stood at attention while the general reviewed her file, waiting for his questions or instructions. Major General Harrison looked up from the documents to study Sarah carefully. He had commanded thousands of soldiers during his career, and he had developed an ability to assess personnel quickly and accurately. What he saw was a professional soldier who showed no signs of nervousness or uncertainty despite being in the presence of such senior leadership. Her posture, demeanor, and direct eye contact spoke of someone accustomed to pressure and responsibility. The general's first question surprised Sarah. Instead of asking about her tactical plans or equipment needs, he asked her to explain why she had chosen to become a sniper. Sarah's response was direct and honest. She told him that her skills had naturally led her toward marksmanship, but that her motivation came from knowing that precision shooting could save the lives of fellow soldiers and protect innocent civilians. She spoke without elaboration or drama, simply stating facts about her perspective on her role. Major General Harrison then asked Sarah about her assessment of the upcoming mission. She spread a map on his desk and pointed out the challenges and opportunities presented by the terrain and intelligence information. Her analysis was thorough and demonstrated tactical understanding that went beyond simple marksmanship. She identified potential problems and proposed solutions with the confidence of someone who had successfully navigated similar challenges. What impressed the general most was Sarah's direct acknowledgement of the mission's risks and her realistic assessment of success probabilities. She did not oversell her capabilities or promise certainties that could not be guaranteed. Instead, she provided an honest evaluation of what she could accomplish given the available information and resources. This professional honesty earned his respect immediately. The general approved Sarah's assignment to the mission and personally signed the orders authorizing her operation. However, he also made an unusual decision. He told Sarah that he would personally oversee the mission from the command center, monitoring communications and providing support as needed. This level of senior leadership involvement was rare for individual sniper operations. Sarah's preparation for the mission was meticulous. She studied satellite imagery and terrain maps, calculating multiple firing positions and escape routes. The target compound was located in a valley surrounded by mountains that offered excellent vantage points, but also significant approach and extraction challenges. Enemy forces were known to patrol the surrounding areas, making stealth essential for mission success. The insertion took place during a moonless night, with Sarah traveling by helicopter to a landing zone 10 kilometers from the target. She carried her rifle, ammunition, and survival equipment for what could be an extended operation if extraction became delayed. The weight was substantial, but her physical conditioning allowed her to maintain the pace necessary for the approach march. Sarah reached her selected firing position well before dawn, giving her time to construct a concealed hide and verify her shooting calculations. The compound was visible through her scope at a range of approximately 900 meters. Through careful observation, she identified the building where the meeting was expected to take place and noted the positions of security personnel around the perimeter. The waiting phase of the mission lasted nearly 8 hours, during which Sarah maintained constant surveillance while enemy patrols moved through the surrounding area. At one point, a patrol passed within 50 meters of her position, requiring her to remain absolutely motionless for over an hour. Her training and experience allowed her to control even her breathing to avoid detection. Major General Harrison monitored the mission from the command center, receiving regular updates from Sarah through encrypted communications. He found himself impressed by her professional composure and clear situation reports despite the challenging conditions and constant danger. Her communications were brief but complete, providing all necessary information without excessive radio traffic that might compromise her position. The target finally appeared in late afternoon. Arriving at the compound with a small security detail, Sarah confirmed the identification through her scope, noting that the engineer matched the intelligence photographs exactly. However, the meeting location had changed from the expected building to an outdoor area where civilian workers were present, complicating the engagement parameters. Sarah reported the situation to Major General Harrison, explaining that she had a clear shot at the target but could not engage without risking civilian casualties. The general faced a difficult decision. The intelligence suggested this might be the only opportunity to eliminate the engineer for months, but the mission parameters strictly prohibited actions that would endanger innocent lives. Major General Harrison authorized Sarah to maintain surveillance and wait for a better opportunity. Even though this decision meant potentially losing the target entirely, Sarah acknowledged the order and continued monitoring the situation, looking for any change that would allow clean engagement. Her patience and discipline impressed the general, who recognized that less experienced operators might have taken questionable shots under such pressure. The opportunity came 2 hours later when the engineer separated from the group to inspect security positions around the compound perimeter. Sarah had a clear shot with no risk to civilians or other individuals in the area. She received authorization to engage and eliminated the target, with a single precise shot at nearly 9 100 meters in challenging wind conditions. The successful completion of the mission had immediate strategic impact, disrupting terrorist operations throughout the region. However, the personal impact was equally significant. Major General Harrison's direct observation of Sarah's performance had shown him the exceptional professionalism and capability that transcended any preconceptions about gender roles in combat operations. After Sarah's successful extraction and debriefing, Major General Harrison took an unprecedented step. He arranged for Sarah to be recognized with one of the highest decorations available for her service, and he personally presented the award in a ceremony attended by senior officers from multiple nations. During the presentation, he publicly acknowledged that he had witnessed one of the finest examples of military professionalism and tactical excellence in his decades of service. The moment that would be remembered by everyone present came when Major General Harrison, a man who commanded respect throughout the military, saluted Sarah with obvious admiration and respect. It was a gesture that spoke louder than any words about the recognition of excellence, regardless of traditional expectations or barriers. Sarah had proven through her actions that skill, dedication, and professionalism were the only measures that truly mattered in military service.